Hello. How we doing? How we feeling? Stream starts in a few. Yeah, so I was having trouble with my camera again. I got a brand new camera, if it isn't obvious, but I had to get a new camera because the old one was just sort of falling apart slowly. And I thought better get ahead of it because I had a problem with that before where I had a problem with my microphone, hence the new microphone, and didn't get ahead of it sort of soon enough. But trying to sort that out took a little bit longer, and I'm still getting used to kind of turning it on and getting it to work. But we're there. Also just had a shower and didn't realize how wet my hair still looks. But there we go. We'll be fine. How we doing? Can you tell it's a different camera? That's the other thing. I mean, I like it because I can move about and it stays in focus. Whereas what it used to happen was if I moved even slightly out of frame, it would lose focus on everything and then it would just give up. I can do this now and it'll focus on my hand. I mean, my hand isn't very well lit because that's behind the light, but exciting, huh? Not really. Not really. Oh, wait. Am I not live? Yeah, I'm live. I thought I forgot to do the short stream then. But no, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Let me also get the race up on the screen just behind the camera. There we go. Hello, hello. I'm very excited as well. I'm very, very excited. It's your birthday. Happy birthday, Moto Hollands. Appreciate you stopping by. I mean, a race on your birthday is pretty decent. I think I've got a qualifying on my birthday this year. Yeah, Vegas quali like very early morning of. And then I guess you could kind of argue like the evening / night of my birthday is the Vegas Grand Prix. So it's like, arguably I've got a Grand Prix on my birthday, although technically it is the next day. What are predictions for the race? We can get into predictions straight off the bat if you would like. Can get straight into them. So before the weekend, and I know it's a little bit awkward now because we've had a sprint and also qualifying. So we've sort of got a vague idea of who's going to be where, at least to begin with today. But before that, before we have any kind of run-in, before we have any kind of free practices, before the teams even turn up to the Grand Prix circuit, I ask you guys for your predictions, the winners, the podium sitters, the surprise packages of the weekend, your best team, your flop team, and of course, the worst driver, the driver to struggle the most across the weekend. With the good has to come the bad. And this was your guys' predictions for this weekend. It's an interesting one. Max Verstappen, predictably, I think most people had Verstappen winning this Grand Prix. I think just because he's so good around Brazil, to be honest. Like, he is so quick around this Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. We've seen it across multiple races, across multiple years. We have also seen him last year absolutely scream through the field from towards the back end of the pack. He's going to have to do something fairly similar again if he's going to get your guys' predictions right. Is Red Bull starting from the pit instead of their places? Max Verstappen is, and Esteban Ocon is also starting from the pit lane as well. You guys had Oscar and Lando on the podium as well. I think that is very likely to happen. I think, you know, looking at the race pace of the McLaren yesterday in the sprint, also looking at where they're starting, most certainly Lando and most likely Oscar will be on that podium come the end of the Grand Prix. Also, really good shout from you guys as Kimi Antonelli has jumped into the surprise package of the weekend. He's been on there a few times throughout the season, and a few times you've been very, very wrong. But this time around, it's looking like that might be a very good prediction indeed, with him picking up a P2 in the sprint yesterday, starting alongside Lando Norris on the front row of the grid again after qualifying. It's looking like a pretty solid Kimi Antonelli weekend, isn't it? And certainly surprising that he is ahead of George Russell so comfortably. I would say he's out-qualified George Russell both times, finished ahead of George Russell easily in the sprint race, seemed to have more pace than George Russell in the sprint race as well. Like, really has started to show that, like, world-class form that we know he's got in there. Like, he has won almost everything on the way up to Formula One. I know he didn't win Formula 2 last year, but prior to that, you look at his karting career, even like Freca and things like that, he has absolutely flown. Like, he has absolutely dominated those series and won everything in front of him. Maybe we see a Kimi Antonelli first ever victory in front of our eyes today. I don't think it's impossible. Don't think that that's like ridiculous. Just Lando Norris in the way of it happening at the moment. You guys have also gone for best team being McLaren. Can completely understand that. It's looking like a fairly comfortable weekend where they will score a good chunk of points. Ferrari versus Mercedes you've also got, and you guys have got Ferrari in as your flop team. They did lose out to Mercedes yesterday in terms of sprint points. If they lose out to Mercedes again in terms of full Grand Prix points, that second place in the Constructors' Championship is still up for bags, but still up for grabs. But not looking like Ferrari are going to get that in the bag anytime soon. And then your struggle, you've gone for the main man, Lance Stroll. He always seems to be in and amongst the voting. Never know whether it's just because people don't really like Lance Stroll or whether you think he's actually going to struggle, because he always seems to be in the voting for that one. And this weekend has come out on top of it. Although there was quite a mix in terms of the struggles this weekend. A few people had Colapinto on there. Some people had like Ocon and Behrman because the Haas they weren't expecting to be very quick. But it's a little bit of a mix. Kimi has nothing to lose while Lando does. That's also very true. You know, if Kimi does go for an absolute dive bomb up the inside or around the outside at turn 1 through turn 2, he could certainly just like put his Mercedes car there and be like, go for it. Like, if you want to hit me, hit me. Like, I think his Lando Norris certainly has a lot more to lose. Has a 9-point gap in the championship now, Lando Norris, but that is definitely not everything guaranteed to go in their favor, is it? And they could certainly sort of struggle and not hold on to that championship lead if things still go against them. This has to be a troll. This is not my predictions. This is your guys' predictions. But again, they are made a long time before the weekend gets underway. They are made what was it? Monday and Tuesday, most people get their votes in. Some people kind of wait until Thursday, Friday. But even then, they're done before we see the free practice. They're done before we see the qualifying. Can someone current weather update in Interlagos? It has rained, but it is no longer raining. It's a little bit like it was for the sprint yesterday, I would say, in that it did rain just beforehand. The track was still wet in places. There were still puddles. Various bits and pieces were being sprayed up. And I mean, just ask Oscar Piastri, Nico Hülkenberg, and Franco Colapinto. It was certainly still damp during the sprint race. And I think there's going to be areas of the track that are still damp now, but the majority does look like it's kind of dried up for the most part. And then looking at the sky, it's cloudy, but not like dark rain cloudy. It is like fairly overcast, but not looking like it's going to rain again anytime soon. And it's not currently raining. So they modified the curbs in turn 3. They have indeed. They've increased the drainage around that curb at turn 3. Be interesting to see what that does, because obviously that was the problem that Oscar and Hulk and Colapinto had was the standing water actually sitting inside of the actually sitting inside of the curb, where the curb kind of has those grooves. They've kind of reframed that and therefore put a little bit of an extra drainage system behind it to try and channel some of that standing water out, basically. And by doing so, I mean, you could argue about the fact, like, should they really be doing that just before a Grand Prix? Because we don't know. They've increased the drainage there, sure, but what about if this new drain, like, cuts the tires or something? Or what if this new drain actually sends the cars wide when they would have normally been fine when they're going over the curbs? Like, it's a little bit of a, not I'm saying it will, but it is also a bit awkward that they're having to make that kind of change during the Grand Prix weekend. Like, you'd hope they'd have thought about these things just a little bit before the Grand Prix weekend, maybe. Is Max trying to emulate 2021 Hamilton? Yeah, very true, very true. Should we talk about it then? Max Verstappen making some big changes. And to be fair to Red Bull, I don't think we can really drag them through the mud that much on what they did yesterday and the changes that they did make. I think, you know, Max Verstappen finished behind the two Mercedes and would have finished behind the two McLarens in the sprint race. So they asked him, and the Red Bull team thought, right, we need to do something a little bit different here. Let's throw it all into it, right? If he finishes in 4th place, the championship is still over. If he finishes in 20th place, the championship is over. So I can completely understand why Red Bull were like, let's make some dramatic changes to this car. Let's see if we can boost it from 4th to 1st. It's going to be an all-in gamble. They went all in, and it played against them, right? Max Verstappen ended up qualifying 16th, and if anything, it's kind of opened the door again for them to be like, right, we can go even further all in than the all in that we made yesterday, because now that he was qualified 16th, he can push it and he can start from the pit lane. So I was going to show you the full. Have I even got? Let me see if I can get the Chrome up. Oh, goodness. If I zoom in, there you go. So Max will start the Formula 1 Grand Prix from the pit lane after Red Bull decided to break Parc Fermé in order to change car spec, setup, and take a new Honda power unit. And like by power unit, I mean the whole thing. Like he has taken all of it to basically just reset and recalibrate what he has got in front of him. I mean, it was a disaster, as they've said inside of this statement. Max Verstappen only 16th, Yuki Tsunoda 19th. They went all in. As I just said before, they went all in. They gambled on him being able to deliver. They gambled on Max Verstappen, instead of being 4th, maybe going towards 1st. It was a flip of a coin. Instead of going up towards 1st, he certainly went down quite a lot towards the back end of the grid and just had the ride of the car was better. He was talking about how the fact that the ride, I don't know if it says in here, probably somewhere, the ride of the car was certainly better, but it just got rid of all the grip and downforce that they had. So it was like, it's fine to be able to have the ride and have a bit more stability, but then if the tires don't actually grip to the surface of the track, you're never going to be able to achieve anything, because the tires are the only part of the car that touches the track, and you could argue the most important part of the entire car. And yeah, he just said like sliding around a lot during the qualifying, so they decided to make those changes. He's a full part. A lot of people were saying, well, doesn't that mean he'll get like a grid penalty next time? But also completely new power unit, including all elements taken on the allocation for the year. But that flexibility they now has, that would have triggered a grid penalty. You are correct. But this is not a factor in the case where breaking Parc Fermé has already led to a pit lane start. So even though Max is getting a brand new engine, a brand new power unit, the whole shebang, like literally every single thing he's getting a brand new one of. So because you break that Parc Fermé, you don't then also get like double jeopardy. You get the brand new power unit. You get all of those new components. You can use them for the final 3 races of the season. So he can certainly continue to use them on in Vegas, Qatar, and also in Abu Dhabi. So that might also be a factor to keep in mind, that Max Verstappen will have brand new components compared to everybody else around him, who will be sticking to their full allocation that they've had so far this year, and sticking to the allocation without any of those extras that Max has now got. But that does mean Max is now starting from the pit lane today. So I think it's a gamble once again from the Red Bull team, but a gamble that makes sense now, because he's starting from the pit lane anyway, because they wanted to make those adaptations to the car. They might as well change around all of the components possible. Feel bad for Yuki in that, though, because Yuki does mean Yuki is going to get absolutely nothing by the looks of things. And that then does mean, if I scroll down a touch, yeah, Max Verstappen starting from the pit lane in Red Bull colours. Esteban Ocon also deciding to start from the pit lane as well. Is it raining? No, it is not raining. I'll let you know if it's raining, don't you worry. And then we have our starting grid. Can I get this nicely framed? Whoop. There we go. Can we expect 2024? I mean, it is going to be very, very tough. Very, very tough indeed. Like, starting from the pit lane is even harder than starting 16th, which was where he started last year. Because at least you're in and amongst the pack. He's going to have to wait for all 18 cars ahead of him to fly past the exit of the pit lane before he's even allowed to join the back of the pack. So you effectively start 10 seconds behind even 18th place. So I'm not holding out hope for a Max Verstappen victory personally, but you never say never with Max Verstappen. And there has been rain. Like, there has been rain just before the Grand Prix. You can see the tents over the cars just in case. The team's certainly wary of the rain coming out. But I don't think we can, absolutely say that Max Verstappen is guaranteed to go on and win this Grand Prix from here, or even get anywhere near the points. Like, if Max Verstappen can get up to, I say the points, but you look at it, it's like Lawson, Behrman, Gasly, Hülkenberg. They're all really difficult cars to pass this year. It is so close. Q3 yesterday, I don't know if the quali times are still up there. They're not still up there. The quali times yesterday, the difference between P1 and P10 was the closest it has ever been. It was half a second. 0.5 of a second separated Lando Norris and Nico Hülkenberg. Like, the whole pack, because we're coming to the end of this regulation cycle, and because everyone has kind of hit their peak or decided to stop developing their car at this point, we're getting towards the point where everybody has got their package absolutely honed down to the perfection that it needs to be to get the most that they can from it, give or take, a little bit of a change here or there, and like what Red Bull did, where you can sometimes gamble and go for something ridiculous. But most of the teams now have their car in such a small window that it is super tight. And you have Alonso outside of the top 10, Hamilton outside of the top 10, Tsunoda, Verstappen outside of the top 10. Like, it is going to be really hard for Max to move forwards, like way harder than it was last year. Way harder than it was last year for Max to move forwards from 19th place, I guess we can say. But pit lane start, really, we should say, for Max Verstappen, because he's not on the grid. It's not like going down towards turn 1. He can just go around the outside and get past Bortoleto, Tsunoda, Colapinto straight off the bat. It's going to take him a couple of laps to even catch up to the back of Bortoleto. And then Bortoleto's an interesting one because they're really good friends. And Bortoleto probably won't, just concede the position to him, and knows how Max Verstappen likes to drive. So, interesting one. Thank you, Sebastian. for the $10 super chat. My prediction is Isaac Hadjar finishes in the podium places. I mean, starting 5th, it's not impossible. You look at Norris, Antonelli, Leclerc ahead. The Ferrari doesn't fill me with hope. I think the problem is he's got a Piastri and a Norris in front of him. Even like George Russell behind. I mean, I love your optimism, Seb. I'll certainly keep an eye on it for you. But I feel like it could be very, very tough indeed for Isaac Hadjar to get a podium from there, even though he's starting from 5th place. His best of the rest is Isaac Hadjar. I could certainly see him getting like up towards the points. Sorry, up towards the podium. But getting onto the podium is another task altogether. He's definitely going to finish fairly high up in the points, though. Again, unless like there's a big change in the weather conditions, you never ever know. Shall we run ourselves down the grid? In fact, should we have a little look at the championship standings just before we fully go into it? Where is the championship board? There we go. Oh, let me put it on the one where I've got the chat open as well. There we go. So I'll pop the championship board up there for you. Lando Norris leading 9 points ahead of Oscar Piastri behind in 2nd place, 365 to 356. Verstappen 326, 3rd place now. 30 points off Oscar, but 9 points off Lando Norris at the top. It's going to be a big swing required for Max Verstappen to stay in it. George Russell's got 4th place, signed, sealed, and delivered, in my opinion. Charles Leclerc, 5th place as well. Not likely to change. Lewis Hamilton, yeah, I could also say stuck in 6th. Kimi Antonelli stuck in 7th. I don't think any of those guys are really going to change position anytime soon. Kimi Antonelli, though, getting above the 100-point mark in his rookie season. Very, very impressive indeed. Chance to even add to that, maybe close the gap to Lewis Hamilton over the last few races of the season, especially because the Mercedes likely to be quick next time out in Vegas as well. Alex Albon is going to finish best of the rest, like 73 points is ridiculous. I know that Hulkenberg, Alonso, Hadjar, they've got podiums to their names. Well, Hadjar and Hulkenberg at least, and Sainz this season. But they'd need kind of another podium and another one if they're going to close up the gap to Alex Albon. So I just don't think anyone's going to get anywhere close to Albon. He's been phenomenal. Hulkenberg, Alonso, Hadjar, Sainz, though, that pack of 4, all within 4 points of one another as well. Like 41 down to 30, or 3 points of each other. Dropping from Hulkenberg to Sainz. I think that's a very, very competitive part of the grid. And it changes every weekend, doesn't it? At the moment, Isaac Hadjar looks like he's got the better of it. But if you asked me earlier on in the weekend, I've said Fernando Alonso. Carlos Sainz has kind of been in and out. The Williams has weekends where it's brilliant. And then the Williams has weekends where it just looks like the back of the midfield. Ollie Behrman's sort of slowly nudging himself towards getting into that. Really, really solid finish from him in Mexico. Brilliant qualifying from him again yesterday. He's starting inside of the point scoring places. So can he close the gap to a Sainz or an Alonso in front of him? I can't see why not. Lance Stroll on 32 points. Less convinced by. And then Lawson and Ocon. It's going to be tough for Ocon, obviously, but Lawson looking like points are on the card, so he can maybe get up above Stroll or even Behrman. Tsunoda down there. Don't think we're going to see much from Tsunoda today. Gasly, though, 7 points for Gasly would put him on par with Tsunoda. 7 points a big ask, considering that Alpine, but the Alpine does seem to be just quick here for no reason. And then Gabriel Bortoleto, I feel like sort of weirdly on 19 points. Feel like this is not a reflection really on how good Gabriel Bortoleto has been. I think he has not been the 19th best driver this season or even close to the 19th best driver this season, to be honest. Gabriel Bortoleto, I think he's been much, much better than that. Just the points haven't been there for him to grab. And he's had a couple of weekends off where if he'd have maybe been on who would be closer to that sort of 30-point margin that the majority of the midfield are around, sort of your 30 to 40 points between what Tsunoda all the way up to Hulkenberg is pretty damn close in that sort of 30 to 40-point margin. Then in terms of the constructor standings, McLaren obviously already have the win. Mercedes now ahead of Ferrari once again after the sprint yesterday. And then Red Bull falling behind considerably. Again, though, they've only got one driver. 326 of those points have come from Max Verstappen alone. And I know you could argue the same, like Russell is really carrying the Mercedes team in terms of their points this season. Like Kimi Antonelli's only got 104, like a third of the points that George Russell has. But Max Verstappen versus Yuki Tsunoda is a completely different ball game to the other one. Leclerc almost sort of double the points of, well, not quite actually, sort of 50-odd points more than Hamilton is, maybe a bigger gap than I was expecting this season as well. Williams likely to finish in 5th, but then again, it is all to play for in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Again, just feels like every weekend it changes, whether it's Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Haas, or Kick Sauber that is the fastest midfield team. This weekend, though, Isaac Hadjar could sort of consolidate that. They're currently matching Aston Martin in terms of points. If they can just get a little bit of a lead, like even if it's one really solid finish and like 10 points on the board, I think then we can see, Aston Martin really fall into 7th place, or possibly even the clutches of Haas, considering how good Ollie Behrman has been over the last few weekends. And actually, Nico Hulkenberg finally coming back to form and finding some qualifying pace. Hasn't been in Q3 for a very, very long time. Finally there. Maybe we'll also see Stake Sauber in the mix as well. But in terms of the starting grid today, Lando Norris starts at the top of the timesheets. He was quickest yesterday in qualifying. Kimi Antonelli's beside him again. Those two, the front row of the sprint race, the front row of the Grand Prix. It is indeed mostly dry. We're going to see slick tyres on the majority of the cars. You're seeing Lando Norris there at the front of the grid, still outside of his McLaren car. 11 minutes to go before we get underway here. And they're just waiting and watching and maybe seeing what other people do in terms of tyres as well, that have set out their stall and sort of said, this is what we're going to do. But they'll also just keep in mind what everybody around them is doing in terms of tyres too. Kimi Antonelli taking a seat by the pit wall. Also preparing for his front row start in Brazil. Could he get his first Formula One victory? Of course, George Russell's first victory for Mercedes came here a couple of years ago now. But could Antonelli do what his teammate did and also grab his first victory here in São Paulo? Charles Leclerc, a little bit of a surprising run in qualifying yesterday. Just really clicked when it needed to for Charles Leclerc. He's just is quick, isn't he? And starting 3rd fastest, Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri, 9 points behind his teammate, 3 places behind his teammate on the starting grid today. He'll be able to see Lando Norris just across in terms of the grid positions. Will he go for a move on his teammate? If he can get a good run at him down towards turn 1 and Kimi Antonelli can cause Lando Norris a headache, maybe we'll see an opportunistic dive from Oscar Piastri. Isaac Hadjar starting best of the rest in the midfield and actually ahead of the Mercedes of George Russell. Hadjar and Russell, the 3rd row of the grid. The Frenchman looking to kind of consolidate that best of the rest place in the standings once again. It's been him and Hulkenberg and Alonso. Again, sort of discounting Alex Albon in that, but best of the rest other than Albon could be Hulkenberg or Alonso, or Isaac Hadjar has been right in the mix there as well. Carlos Sainz kind of entering it most recently after his podium place. Then Liam Lawson, Isaac Hadjar's teammate, starting just behind him in 7th. I think this is also a big opportunity for Racing Bulls in terms of the Constructors' Championship. Both of those cars can finish, so again, best of the rest in the points compared to their rivals, particularly with both Aston Martin starting outside of the points. Could be a huge, huge weekend for the Racing Bulls team. Ollie Behrman, the best performance of his Formula One career. A 4th place finish for Haas last time out, and the best finish from a Haas car since 2018, where Romain Grosjean finished in 4th place. Ollie Behrman starting 8th. Is there another 4th place available to him? Can he be the driver that finishes best of the rest? And can he drag Haas closer to Aston Martin and RB in terms of the Constructors' Championship? We'll have to wait and see. Then the final 2 cars starting inside of the points that qualified inside of the top 10. Pierre Gasly has not seen himself there for a very long time. It's been a while since we've seen the Alpine question whether or not we're going to see points from the Frenchman. But starting P9, got a point yesterday, finished P8 in the sprint race. Certainly up for grabs. Pierre Gasly does seem to just love this Interlagos track, and the Alpine car also. Like, he couldn't even explain it. I remember Gasly in an interview was sort of like, don't know why, but the car is just kind of good here in Interlagos, and is how it is. So starting 9th place, maybe he can do something. I'd be impressed if he can go forwards. Like, looking at the cars ahead of him, I'd be impressed if he can go forwards, but maintaining 9th place is certainly up for grabs. And then Nico Hülkenberg starting inside of the top 10. As I said, I think this is the first time that Nico Hülkenberg has qualified in the top 10, at least for a very, very long time. I can't remember the last time he qualified inside of the top 10 this season, if it has happened before this season. But Hülkenberg starting in 10th place. And again, we'll be looking at getting some points on the board for Stake Sauber. Just outside of that top 10, Fernando Alonso starts in 11th place for Aston Martin. They'll be looking at the fact that the 2 Racing Bull cars are ahead of them in the constructor standings, but also ahead of them on track today. And then Alex Albon. Alex Albon can kind of take his foot off the gas a little bit, can't he? Knows that Williams are going to finish 5th in the Constructors. Knows that he's going to finish 8th in the Drivers. But he'll want to get some more points on the board. So maybe Alex Albon in the mix. Am I live anywhere else? We are live on YouTube and Twitch. If you prefer to watch it on Twitch, you'll see Wide Baby is watching on Twitch here. You can see in the chat. Little bit of a mix. What's the weather looking like? Still dry at this moment in time. And not looking like it will rain at the moment. But we'll see. We'll see. Lewis Hamilton starting in 13th place. I haven't talked about him yet this stream. Awkward for him in terms of qualifying. Should have qualified better for the sprint, but his teammate spun around in front of him. And then just seemed to lack any kind of pace or grip in the car yesterday. As I said, it was a surprise to see Charles Leclerc as high up as he is. So Hamilton sort of falling off of it. He wasn't very happy about the car. He was asked about it yesterday after qualifying. He said, from here, I can't really do anything. So even Lewis Hamilton doesn't think he's going to be able to achieve much from 13th place. So I haven't got my hopes up either. Lance Stroll starting 14th place. Awkward, I think, but you know, we'll have to wait and see. They were so good at qualifying on the medium tire that maybe there is some medium tire pace in that Aston Martin car. We'll just kind of have to wait and see if they can turn that into race pace, because Fernando Alonso was able to create a DRS train once again in the sprint race and keep the Ferraris at bay. Maybe they have got the race pace on the medium tire, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see what Lance Stroll can do. In fact, he's starting on the hard compound tire. Carlos Sainz starting in 15th place. Then we get to a bit of a weird mix of cars, because we've got Colapinto and Tsunoda starting 16th and 17th. Then Gabriel Bortoleto, who didn't take part in qualifying yesterday, only in 18th place, because at his first Grand Prix, they had to put that car together again. And he qualified 20th technically, but then Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon both deciding to break Parc Fermé rules and make changes to their car for today's Grand Prix. Max Verstappen starting from the pit lane, Esteban Ocon also starting from the pit lane, but behind Max Verstappen because he did qualify behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen qualified 16th yesterday after dropping out in Q1 for the first time since, Sochi 2021, I think it was the last time Max Verstappen dropped out in a Q1 session, and the first time that both Red Bulls had been eliminated from Q1 since Japan 2006. That was how bad it went for the Red Bull team yesterday in São Paulo, but they've got an opportunity to turn it all around today. In terms of the tyre compounds, they've just come in as well. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri starting on the medium tyre at the front of the pack, and Kimi Antonelli going for a soft compound tyre run to begin with. Slightly scrubbed set of softs as well. They've already completed 3 laps, so they would have been used yesterday in qualifying. Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson doing the same thing, a slightly scrubbed set of soft compound tyres that will have done some laps in qualifying. And George Russell starting on a scrubbed set of medium tyres. He would have maybe used those in SQ1 or SQ2, where he was qualifying on the medium tyre, or possibly even a medium tyre set that he's got left over from free practice that only did 4 laps. We'll have to wait and see. I haven't got confirmation, but it's a slightly scrubbed set of mediums for Russell. Soft compound tyres for Behrman and Gasly. Nico Hülkenberg starts on the fresh set of medium tyres. Fernando Alonso starting on the hards. Alex Albon on a scrubbed set of mediums. Hamilton on the softs. Lance Stroll on the hards. Sainz on the softs. Colapinto on the mediums. Tsunoda on the hard compound tyre. And Bortoletto on the softs. So it's a real mix of tyres, actually. A real shake around of soft, medium, and hard compound tyres that are setting themselves up for this Grand Prix. In terms of those tyres, just very quickly as we move over to it. Oh, wrong one. We have got the C2, C3, and C4 this weekend. So slightly harder than the possible options. They could go all the way to the C5 if they needed to. So it's that middle kind of range of tyre compounds available to the cars, but a lot of people using scrubbed sets because they obviously get less tyre compounds across the weekend with it being a sprint weekend, and they will have used a lot of those tyre compounds during sprint qualifyings and the sprint race, of course, as well, where we did actually get a tyre swap in the sprint race due to that red flag. So that used an additional set of tyres that maybe they wouldn't have been expecting to use during that sprint race. We don't often see the teams swap around their tyres during the sprint race at all. Let's move to the detailed track board then. 71 laps of the São Paulo Grand Prix ahead of us. We know it's going to deliver. It always does every single year. Is just how much drama you get from the Brazilian circuit. Is it going to be the drama of Lando Norris consolidating himself as this year's championship rival to take it, as Piastri and Verstappen have slowly ebbed away? Or is it going to be the twist in the tail? Is Max Verstappen going to be able to do something mesmeric from 19th place? Is Kimi Antonelli going to be able to take the victory away from Lando Norris? Or is Oscar Piastri going to use this as his launching pad into the final 3 races of the season to show what he is truly made of? We'll have to wait and see. But 71 laps ahead of them. It's going to be a tough ask for anybody on that grid to, achieve in this race, because anything could happen. There's no rain on the radar at the moment from what I can see, but we've said that before, and Brazil has delivered. So you never know when it comes to the Brazilian Grand Prix circuit. It's one where I never really try and predict the weather, if I'm honest, because they said it was a 0% chance of rain earlier on today. And then on Reddit, I saw loads of people at the Brazil Grand Prix in ponchos, absolutely soaking wet. So you never know when it comes to the Brazil Grand Prix weekend. Max Verstappen there at the end of the pit lane in his Red Bull car. Lando Norris going pretty quickly on this formation lap. Already coming around towards turn 6 now is Lando. We're seeing Tsunoda and Colapinto getting underway. Gabriel Bortoletto, the final car on the grid. And Esteban Ocon has indeed joined Max Verstappen in the pit lane. both on hard compound tyres starting from that pit lane. Verstappen, seeing Bortoleto come around turn 2, is allowed to also come around for the formation lap. So Verstappen and Ocon. You can see what I mean here by Bortoleto now going down in towards turn 4, and it's going to be the same come next lap when they're fully racing, but Bortoleto is going to be going around turn 4 before Max Verstappen even exits the pits. So Verstappen has not only got to catch up to the back of the pack before he can then start overtaking. And that's the difference between a lot of people saying, you know, he won here from 16th last year. Yes, but he started 16th. He was in 16th place at the beginning of the Grand Prix and could move forward quickly when those cars were still condensed in the early stages of the Grand Prix. He's going to have to wait for a few laps before he even catches up to the back of Bortoleto. And by that point, you don't know what the picture is going to look like. Is somebody in the midfield going to have a problem or have to slow down? Or is there going to be a bit of a DRS train that then Max Verstappen gets stuck into? There's going to be a few things that play against Max Verstappen starting from 19th place here. It's going to be a real ordeal for him, but we'll keep our eyes peeled. And of course, he'll probably be the most entertaining part of the Grand Prix, watching him try and surge through the field. Lando Norris, though, let's focus on him to begin with, as he is starting at the front of the pack and takes his place at that front point. Kimi Antonelli actually pointing himself slightly towards Lando Norris. Maybe going to try and make a move straight off the line is Kimi Antonelli and go across to cover off either Charles Leclerc or Piastri behind, or maybe even go for a lunge on Lando Norris. There is Verstappen and Ocon making their way into the pits as Gabriel Bortoleto is the final car to take his position. The green flag waved at the back of the pack confirms that all cars have stopped, and 5 red lights between us and the beginning of this Brazilian Grand Prix. Here he goes then, Lando Norris to hold on to a victory once again here. Kimi Antonelli comes across to defend from Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri looks up the inside of Leclerc and isn't able to do anything this time around. Antonelli and actually Isaac Hadjar now causing some problems for Oscar Piastri, pushes him wide at turn 2, but Piastri stays where he is. Liam Lawson has actually been able to jump in front of George Russell. Gasly is up into 8th. Ollie Behrman has dropped down a position to 9th. Alonso up into 10th. Hülkenberg down to 11th. Carlos Sainz and Yuki Tsunoda with good starts as well, up to 13th and 14th place. Lewis Hamilton with a nightmare start in his Ferrari is now down to last of the runners. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that. Must have been forced wide or gone wrong during the first lap. During the first corner. Lando Norris, though, leading the pack through the middle sector now, coming around turn 9 and through turn 10. This is where the cars sort of file into one by one, unless your Nico Hülkenberg is having a little look and a fight with Alex Albon, and Alex Albon has actually been able to swoop around and get in front. And Gabriel Bortoleto has come to a stop at turn 10. What's happened there for Gabriel Bortoleto? He's made contact with the wall. And Bortoleto maybe had a little bit of a problem after he made contact with Lewis Hamilton early on in this Grand Prix. Bortoleto is still on the track at turn 10, and Lando Norris starts the second lap of the Grand Prix, goes down towards turn 4. DRS not yet enabled. Antonelli and Leclerc having a look at one another through turn 4, and there is a safety car. There is indeed the safety car. That's going to help Max Verstappen a little bit here. He has been able to close up to the pack a little bit. Caught up to the back of Colapinto, but the safety car going to allow him to properly close into the back of the pack. And there is Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari car, also missing a front wing. So must have been some kind of touch between the two, and Gabriel Bortoleto not able to get that Stake Sauber car moving again. The safety car has come out. Gabriel Bortoleto's family there, frustrated. And his first ever home Grand Prix. And it's ended half a lap in. Got to turn 10. Let's have a little look at this start then. What happened to Lewis Hamilton? They're not showing quite that far down, unfortunately. Liam Lawson, a nice little move around the outside of George Russell. Just closed the door on George going through turn 2. Oscar Piastri nearly caught out by Isaac Hadjar as well, but managed to hold on to 4th place well. Isaac Hadjar then had another little look down towards turn 4 on Oscar Piastri, but Piastri just enough pace in that McLaren car. Let's have a little look from Hamilton's perspective then, because it all did seem to just go wrong. He gets stuck behind a slow-moving Aston Martin. I think Fernando Alonso doesn't get away well, and then there's contact there for Lewis Hamilton. And as he tries to rejoin, there's actually contact between him and Carlos Sainz. And then as Hamilton rejoins, he does drop all the way to the back end of the field. And then, and it's Bortoleto. He just gets squeezed by Lance Stroll, it actually is, who is side by side with Gabriel Bortoleto, and Stroll just not leaving quite enough space, but also Bortoleto not really alongside Lance Stroll fully. I think that's a little bit of a racing error. And then Hamilton actually clipped the rear end of Franco Colapinto's car. That's where Hamilton lost his front wing. I thought it might have been involved in that Bortoleto, but he was not. Hamilton just catching the rear left tyre of Franco Colapinto, the tiniest of touches, but removes the front wing of that Ferrari car, and Hamilton has come into the pits to change it. Yuki Tsunoda also deciding to pit now under the safety car conditions. So Tsunoda in, Hamilton in, Tsunoda onto the medium compound tyre as well. Safety car still out as Gabriel Bortoleto's car is still on track, hence the car's cutting turn 10 at the moment. They're going through the escape road the other side. And Bortoleto has to watch from the sidelines. He's okay. Wasn't a big crash, but unfortunately for him, it is over and done with. Cars making their way around now. Safety car just coming across the start-finish line. It's lap 3 of 71. Sorry, not 21. A little bit too early for a strategic stop under the safety car, it has to be said, as we watch Lewis Hamilton now coming through the middle part of the track. And still going fairly slowly, Lewis Hamilton. Obviously under safety car conditions, but not catching the back of Yuki Tsunoda anytime soon. Having a little rewatch of Hamilton's pit stop. Had to get that nose on and off. Quite a bit of front wing actually stuck underneath the car. There's going to be a lot of damage to the floor of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari car there as well. It's going to be very awkward indeed for Lewis Hamilton, but it was contact with Carlos Sainz that sort of spiraled him towards the back end of the grid. Sainz goes to the left-hand side. Hamilton just gets stuck behind the Aston Martin, and then Sainz catches Lewis Hamilton's rear left tyre, sends him for a spin at turn 1. Looking at Yuki Tsunoda's perspective, he sees it all unfold. Tsunoda almost has to get out of the way of Lewis Hamilton as well. Hamilton pushed to the right-hand side. Tsunoda comes up the inside of him. Pierre Gasly also watching on board. It was a decent start from Pierre Gasly. Started 9th, still 9th. Lots of chaos going on around him, but was able to hold on to his position. Actually nearly getting alongside Ollie Behrman. And George Russell had a really tough start to this Grand Prix. Actually, Pierre Gasly nearly able to make a run on George Russell, but Russell able to just about hold his Mercedes car in front and maintain 7th place. And actually possibly a little bit of a touch between George Russell and Pierre Gasly there as they went through turn 5 and turn 6 side by side. Ollie Behrman then did eventually take that position back from Gasly as well, up into 8th spot. Safety car still out at the moment. Bortoleto, the first driver to drop out of this Grand Prix. Only seen half a lap of racing so far. Norris, Antonelli, Leclerc still at the front of the pack. Piastri, championship rival, in 4th spot. Both of the RBs now up in 5th and 6th. And Lewis Hamilton not very happy inside of that Ferrari car. And as we expected, a lot of damage done to that Ferrari car. That is going to be a very, very difficult Ferrari for Lewis Hamilton to get on top of. And he's going to be lacking a lot of downforce throughout this Grand Prix. Bortoleto squeezed into the wall then by Lance Stroll. Side by side as they were going up towards turn 10. Bortoleto coming out the worst of it. And Gabriel now out in his first home Grand Prix. He'll have another few Brazilian Grand Prix to look forward to over the next few years. He's been very, very good as Gabriel Bortoleto this year, in my opinion. Has all the markings of one of the better drivers on the Formula One grid of the future. And here we are then. Safety car is in. Lando Norris is going to get us back underway. And he does indeed get the jump. And Kimi Antonelli gets away a little bit slow. And that allows Oscar Piastri the movement. Oh, it's going to be a touch between Piastri and Antonelli. Antonelli then into Charles Leclerc. And Charles Leclerc, I think, has lost his front left wheel. It is a disaster for Ferrari on the restart. Kimi Antonelli is now also falling down the order. He's side by side with Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar having a look at the Mercedes car. Oscar Piastri is up into second place. It was a terrible start from Antonelli, which allowed Oscar Piastri to get up the inside of the Italian. But then Piastri coming to contact with Antonelli. Antonelli then spearing into Charles Leclerc, and Charles Leclerc coming out the worst of it. It was a very, very bold move indeed from Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen has done incredible work as well. He's up into 13th place. As I said, it kind of played into his favor. And Lance Stroll is also going slowly. Charles Leclerc has come to a stop. And front left suspension is broken, says Charles Leclerc. I mean, the front left wheel came off of that car. So Leclerc wasn't going to get too far on three wheels. I think that's going to be probably another safety car, if I'm honest with you. Because Charles Leclerc has come to a stop down the straight between turn 3 and turn 4. Max Verstappen continuing to try and make moves then. He's currently in 13th place and looking at the back of Nico Hülkenberg. It's a virtual safety car. Virtual safety car. Charles Leclerc's car is out of the way, but there is still marshals that need to get out onto the track to make sure and get Charles Leclerc back in. And it's another afternoon that ends in disappointment for Charles Leclerc this season. He's become accustomed to it inside of that Ferrari car. Antonelli just gets a really slow launch. Charles Leclerc has to go to the right-hand side. That allows Piastri to go to the left. Piastri then brakes and locks up into turn 1. Piastri does make the corner, though, but there's no way really for Antonelli to go, and Charles Leclerc is on the outside of him. They're 3 abreast going in towards turn 1, and that often does end in tears for somebody in Formula 1. And Antonelli just gets tagged at the rear end by by Antonelli, and Antonelli then sent spinning into Charles Leclerc. Nothing that Charles could really do. He was running wide at turn 1 and then just gets caught by Antonelli. And yeah, then that front left tyre, Charles Leclerc just very unlucky that then just completely and utterly disintegrates in front of him. And Piastri slowed down, broke late. And Piastri on the radio says, he left me no space. Piastri is alongside Antonelli. Brakes very late, locks up that front left as Oscar Piastri. He is on the rumble strips. Max Verstappen did a great job. Was 17th and then double overtake at the start for Verstappen. Verstappen deciding to pit now. Verstappen is in and out. So maybe Red Bull deciding to go very, very long indeed on these tyres under the virtual safety car conditions. Front right puncture for Max Verstappen. That is why front right puncture for Max Verstappen. And that's why he then ended up having to come in. So Verstappen was up to 13th place, now has to do it all over again. He's back down to 18th. He's behind Lance Stroll, who is also a little distance away from the back of the pack. Tsunoda up to 14th place as the other car that has pitted so far, and Lewis Hamilton had to pit because he picked up damage to his front wing. Virtual safety car is ending as we see Charles Leclerc having a look at the front left tyre of his Ferrari and realising it's not there anymore, Charles. Here we go then, virtual safety car ending. Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri. Is Piastri going to have a look at his teammate down towards turn 1? Not this time around. But Piastri, all of a sudden, is right behind his teammate. And exactly where he needs to be in this Grand Prix. Lap 9 of 71 as Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson also get away. Oh no, Liam Lawson a bit of a slow getaway as George Russell manages to make that move. Max Verstappen up into 16th place. Then another double overtake for Max as he gets past Ocon and Stroll. Ocon has actually come into the pits. So here we are then. Norris and Piastri now are top 2. Antonelli in 3rd place. Hadjar in 4th. Russell in 5th. Lawson down in 6th. Behrman, Gasly, Albon and Sainz now both inside of the point scoring places. So it's played into Williams' hands very nicely indeed. Albon now running 9th. Carlos Sainz running 10th. Fernando Alonso, the closest competitor, always seems to be himself in 11th place, doesn't it? Fernando is there once again. Nico Hülkenberg 12th, Yuki Tsunoda in 13th. Colapinto, Hamilton, Verstappen, Stroll, Ocon still running around. We have Leclerc and Bortoleto are 2 DNFs of the weekend so far. And Oscar Piastri is outside of DRS range, so will not get the DRS down towards turn 4. Lando Norris will now be looking in his wing mirrors just to check. Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race from anybody. He is a little bit further back now, Max Verstappen. He's overtaken Lance Stroll, got the better of Ocon as he pitted. But Verstappen now 4 or nearly 5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So he's going to need a lot more of those fastest laps, is Max, if he's going to catch up to the back of the rest of the pack. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri still leading. Antonelli getting away now from Isaac Hadjar. The gap between 3rd and 4th place getting towards 2 seconds. George Russell will have DRS on the Racing Bulls car ahead of him. Lawson, Behrman, Gasly, Albon, Sainz also inside DRS range and, crucially, inside of the points. Alonso, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, Colapinto, Hamilton, the pack just outside of the points there. Verstappen closing in the back of it. George Russell has a little look at the Racing Bull, but is not able to go for it this time around. George Russell still sits then in 5th place. Lewis Hamilton is side by side with Franco Colapinto, has a little look at the Alpine car, but does not have the stability to go for a move this time around. Hamilton, you can see the damage done to that floor and the lack of stability that he's got in that Ferrari. He still has the raw pace of that Ferrari car, so he's able to battle with Colapinto, but isn't able to make a move this time around. Max Verstappen, another fastest lap for him, and it was 2 seconds quicker than Hamilton, so now just 2 seconds adrift of the Ferrari. Max Verstappen is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what kind of moves he can make once he gets into the midfield. George Russell then still looking at the back of Isaac Hadjar. Hadjar now 2 seconds adrift still of Antonelli. George Russell, the first driver within DRS range of the car ahead. Can he make it count? Hadjar on the soft compound tyre, Russell on the medium though, so maybe better for Russell to just wait a little bit. Bide his time until those soft compound tyres go off a touch. No, deciding to go for it now. George Russell has a little look at Hadjar through turn 1. Isn't able to make a move this time around, but has carried a lot more momentum than Isaac Hadjar has been able to through turn 2 and turn 3. He is right under the rear wing. The DRS open for George Russell. Moves over to the left-hand side of the track and round the inside of Isaac Hadjar before they even get to the braking zone. That is George Russell up into P4. And both of the Mercedes cars, again, side by side. It is 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes, and now 2 Racing Bulls, followed by Ollie Bearman in 7th place and Pierre Gasly in 8th. So played massively favourably for those guys behind, with Charles Leclerc dropping out of the Grand Prix. It's just shuffled everybody up a touch. Ollie Bearman now running in 7th spot and actually looking at the back of Liam Lawson's car, trying to make a move on the Racing Bull ahead. Pierre Gasly looking at his finest finish in a long time inside of that Alpine car in 8th spot. Albon and Sainz both benefiting from just the consistency that they have of often running just outside of the points. When it does go wrong for somebody inside of the points, they're there to inherit the position. Albon up into 9th, Carlos Sainz up into 10th. Here comes Ollie Bearman then, and it's a lunge from Ollie Bearman up the inside of Liam Lawson. Maybe just caught Liam Lawson sleeping a little bit, as it's a wonderful move, and Max Verstappen then also goes for a similar move on Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen gets himself up into 15th place. So Ollie Bearman up a position, Max Verstappen up a position, and Liam Lawson looking like he has not got the pace to live with Ollie Bearman for now. Bearman now chasing down the next midfield car in Isaac Hadjar. What a move that was from Ollie Bearman. Up the inside of turn 1. Caught Liam Lawson sleeping, it felt like. Liam Lawson just had no defense for it. And Bearman gets that move up into 6th place. Pierre Gasly now also looking at the back of Liam Lawson's car, but has Alex Albon for company. It's going to be very tricky indeed. Here's Yuki Tsunoda making a move. Getting past Franco Colapinto. Oh, and nearly loses that Red Bull and does. Oh, it's a replay of a very early incident between Tsunoda and Stroll. That's why. And there is a 10-second time penalty coming for Yuki Tsunoda for causing that collision. So 10-second time penalty handed to Yuki Tsunoda there. That's why they're showing the replay. 10-second time penalty for causing a collision, and that was with Lance Stroll, the incident between them at turn 8. So Tsunoda now has a 10-second time penalty. Max Verstappen gets in front of Colapinto, and I'm sure with Yuki Tsunoda having a 10-second time penalty, he's not going to sit in front of his teammate for very long. Max Verstappen now up into 14th, the next car, Yuki Tsunoda. Max Verstappen closing in. Lando Norris elongating his lead. Norris now 2.2 seconds the gap to Piastri behind. Antonelli another couple of seconds back. Verstappen another couple of seconds. Hadjar 2 seconds. Bearman a second and a half. Starting to get a... And Hamilton is not very happy inside of that Ferrari car. He's the solo Ferrari running out there. He's in 16th place. And the damage done to the bottom of that Ferrari car, meaning it's so unstable for him at the moment. He is really struggling for any kind of grip. And struggling to keep up with Franco Colapinto ahead of him. Max Verstappen has Yuki Tsunoda move out of the way for him on the main straight. And Tsunoda obliges. Verstappen up into 13th place, back where he was before he had to pit. And here he goes. Oh, and Lewis Hamilton has decided to pit once again for Ferrari. Maybe they just needed an opportunity to check the rear end of that Ferrari car and the underneath of it. A lot of damage done to the floor of that Ferrari car. And Hamilton really struggling with it. Lewis doesn't want to retire, but is very much struggling. Making a change to the tyres, possibly a change to the front wing adjustment, I'd imagine, for Ferrari. I didn't see the pit stop, but I hope they're trying to do something to help Lewis Hamilton at least. Max Verstappen now half a second behind Nico Hülkenberg. This is the problem that Verstappen is going to have now, is Verstappen is in that DRS train. So Hülkenberg has DRS. Alonso has DRS. Carlos Sainz is actually just... Oh no, does just about have DRS as well. And Lewis Hamilton is under investigation for causing a collision with Franco Colapinto. So that is under investigation now as well. Max Verstappen, DRS. Hülkenberg ahead of him. But as I said, Hülkenberg is going to have DRS as well. And Verstappen is going to have to do something a little bit special here. He's entered this kind of gaggle of cars all the way up to Isaac Hadjar, really, in 5th place. It's all within touching distance of one another. I know Behrman and Lawson just outside of DRS technically, but they are close enough that that isn't always the case. Gasly has DRS, Albon, Sainz just has fallen outside of the DRS range of his teammate, but if Albon needs to, he can drop back a touch. It's all very, very tightly compressed for Max Verstappen now. And it is a 10-second time penalty for Oscar Piastri for causing a collision. 10-second time penalty for causing a collision for Oscar Piastri then. You can see that coming up. The incident at turn 1 involving Piastri and Antonelli was under investigation, and the stewards have given a 10-second penalty to Piastri as Max Verstappen now moves above Nico Hülkenberg. And even in the DRS train, Max Verstappen is able to make those moves count. He now has Fernando Alonso for company in front of him. So Piastri has indeed got a penalty, 10-second time penalty. Lewis Hamilton was not given a penalty for colliding with the back of colliding with Carlos Sainz. There is no further investigation for that, causing a collision with Carlos Sainz. So Hamilton, nothing doing. Also Carlos Sainz, no penalty for him either. So the stewards now making their way through and giving out the penalties and deciding what's what. Piastri, 3.5 seconds adrift of Norris, though. Norris just looking in a completely different zone to everybody else this weekend. Whilst everyone else has been up and down, Lando Norris has been the one consistent runner. Max Verstappen then now trying to make a move on Fernando Alonso, both of them with DRS open, and Max Verstappen actually makes the move very early on as they go into turn 15, gets alongside Alonso and ahead of Alonso. Verstappen now up into 9th place as Carlos Sainz pits for Williams, and Ollie Behrman also pits for Haas. I mean, Max Verstappen, the only benefit he has got from that puncture is that he has now made a change in terms of his tyres. So if he can hold on to those tyres just a little bit longer than everybody else and maybe pit a little bit later on in this Grand Prix, maybe he can do it. He needs another safety car, really, does Max. He needs to get past like the gaggle of cars ahead of him, Albon, Gasly, Lawson. And then what we need is Norris, maybe Piastri to kind of pit, and then there's a safety car again, which allows Max Verstappen to pit under safety car conditions rather than in full conditions, and actually Max then gets the benefit of gaining about 10 seconds or so from that. Then we could see something very interesting indeed from Max Verstappen, but he's done incredibly well to get up to 8th place already in 19 laps with 53 laps remaining. Lewis Hamilton under investigation again, by the way, for that incident involving him and Colapinto. I thought that was the one that came through before, but that was the one with him and Sainz. Colapinto and Hamilton under investigation for that now. We now have some racing bulls coming into the pits. It's Isaac Hadjar comes in. Let's see where he's going to come out. Lance Stroll, Colapinto going past. So there's Behrman and Ocon. So Behrman has actually got the jump on Isaac Hadjar there. Behrman has got the undercut and moved ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Was behind Isaac Hadjar beforehand. Behrman now up into 13th place. And actually, Haas have played a blinder there. Behrman's got a lovely little gap to Lance Stroll ahead of him. It's a 10-second or so gap to the Aston Martin running in 12th. Everybody else in front of him is going to pit. So Behrman's now got some lovely clean air in front of him. He's got Esteban Ocon, his teammate, behind to defend. And Haas have got this lovely little back and forth that they can do. Ocon can just slow down the rest of the field, allow Behrman to have a little bit more of a gap. And then once those other cars start pitting, they will fall behind Ollie Behrman once again. Hadjar and Gasly stuck behind Esteban Ocon for now. Hamilton and Sainz at the back of the pack. Lando Norris still leading. Coming around turn 8 on your screens. Piastri in turn 7, Antonelli 6. George Russell just coming through turn 6 as well, our top 4. Albon is up into 5th place. Max Verstappen is now up into 6th. Of course, did pit a long time before everybody else and is on a very different strategy to everybody else, is Max Verstappen, but still going very quickly indeed. Alex Albon probably won't waste a lot of time keeping Max Verstappen behind, to be honest, because he's holding onto those tyres and needs to go very long indeed. Lando Norris on the radio. And they're looking at plan B, possibly even plan D at McLaren there. Lando Norris possibly wanting some different tyres to what they were expecting. Max Verstappen then closing into the back of Alex Albon. His old Red Bull teammate, his DRS is open. And this is Max Verstappen moving himself up into the top 5. And this is the thing that now plays lovely into Max Verstappen's favour, is he now has a little bit of a gap to run into. He's got 10 seconds of clear road as Fernando Alonso is having a battle with Hülkenberg, and Hülkenberg is getting very close indeed, and Hülkenberg's going to get himself past Fernando Alonso. Yuki Tsunoda also having a little look at the pair. Hülkenberg, Alonso, Tsunoda is a battle that is playing out inside of the point scoring places. Piastri on the radio. Just being told about that 10-second penalty. And Piastri being told over the radio, plan C now with that 10-second penalty. And that's maybe why he's had to slow down his pace a touch, because he needs to go that bit longer on this tyre compound. The gap between Piastri and Verstappen, currently 14.6 seconds. Piastri with a 10-second penalty. So let's call that 4.5. Max Verstappen suddenly looking much more competitive as Kimi Antonelli coming in for his first pit stop of the afternoon. A 2.2-second stop from Mercedes releases George Russell into the podium places. Max Verstappen, Alex Albon, Hülkenberg, Tsunoda making their way past. Kimi Antonelli going to come out still ahead of Ollie Behrman, but likely behind Lance Stroll here. And doesn't want to pit into too much traffic, so he's got a little bit of a gap to Lance Stroll ahead, a couple of seconds or so. But it's not a perfect pit stop for Kimi Antonelli by any means. Pierre Gasly now making a move on the inside of Esteban Ocon, and Ocon with much older tyres. Gasly goes for it, and the old Alpine teammates don't put up too much of a fight with one another. Gasly through Esteban Ocon drops down to 15th place now. So Behrman no longer defended by Ocon, as Hadjar and Gasly have made their way past. But if you look at that gap, Hadjar 3.5 seconds adrift of Behrman. So Ocon has done his job there in defending Ollie Behrman from the Racing Bull and keeping that Racing Bull at arm's length. Behrman now actually chasing down the rear wing of Kimi Antonelli ahead. So let's see what the lap times are like as Kimi Antonelli is going to come across the start-finish line. And we're going to see the first sort of full lap of pace from Kimi Antonelli as he has a little look at Lance Stroll. I think Lance Stroll going very slowly indeed. Kimi Antonelli already catching up to the back of the Aston Martin and not wanting to do too many laps behind the Aston Martin. Kimi Antonelli down in towards turn 4, gets past Lance Stroll and up into 10th place. Kimi Antonelli now, but has completed a pit stop. Colapinto ahead of him, yet to stop. Alonso, Hülkenberg, Albon the same. Russell, Piastri and Norris also yet to have pitted. Lando Norris coming around towards turn 1. 24 laps. And needs just a little bit of breathing room now, Lando Norris. Some of those back markers disappeared up the road a touch. He's looking at Kimi Antonelli. the rear wing of Franco Colapinto. Colapinto yet to have stopped, and Kimi Antonelli has just got easily the pace to get past the Alpine. Didn't make it look very difficult at all. It almost made that move through turn 15, let alone down towards turn 1, and Kimi Antonelli back up into 9th place. Yuki Tsunoda, the next car on the road. Tsunoda has stopped, but it was right at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Has already completed 21 laps on those medium tyres, Yuki Tsunoda. So I don't think he's going to put up too much of a fight when battling with Kimi Antonelli. 10-second time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda as well, so it's not really much for him to be fighting for. All forgetting that Max needs to pit too. Very true. Does still need to pit, does Max Verstappen. Has pitted once, but is not going to be able to get all the way to the end. Had a puncture, though, did Max Verstappen. Wasn't really his fault. So, Lando, hard does not look good. Soft, probably similar to yesterday. So, Lando Norris being told that maybe the hard compound tyre is not the tyre to run here. As we see Yuki Tsunoda coming into the pits once again, and Kimi Antonelli moves up one more position into 8th place. Lando Norris continuing on, and maybe that's why they decided to get off the hard compound tyre at the beginning of the Grand Prix, because Max Verstappen did start on the hard compound tyre, jumped straight off of it onto the mediums, and maybe looking at a soft compound tyre next. Kimi Antonelli then continuing on. Yuki Tsunoda has served his penalty, but Yuki Tsunoda now dropping all the way to the back of the grid. It's going to be 18th place and a considerable margin away from Lewis Hamilton. Norris, Piastri, Russell are top 3. Still yet to have pitted, though. Russell's slightly scrubbed set of mediums will probably have to pit first of those 3. Verstappen then next in the queue. He's running in 4th place, but is on a very different strategy to everybody else because of that puncture that he picks up at the beginning of the Grand Prix. Alex Albon in 5th, Hulkenberg 6th. Alonso now drops down to 8th as Kimi Antonelli makes a move and moves up to 7th place. Colapinto now 9th, and Ollie Behrman getting his way past Lance Stroll. Ollie Behrman really scything his way through the midfield and into the points once again. Looking very, very solid indeed is Ollie Behrman's pace this weekend. Norris in the lead. Yeah, looking good as well. 6-second gap to Oscar Piastri. Piastri having to really hold back on his pace because he's going to have to go for a very different plan due to that 10-second penalty. And George Russell is looking... Oh. And Yuki Tsunoda. Incident involving car 22 failing to serve time penalty correctly. That is usually a slam dunk second penalty. So one of the Red Bull team maybe touched his car or he didn't stay stationary for the full 10 seconds. But that looks like it's going to be a slam dunk second penalty for Yuki Tsunoda. So to just misery compile the Japanese driver's afternoon. He's already running in 18th place, but likely to pick up another penalty for that. Just going to take this opportunity to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you could hit the like button on the stream, that would be absolutely amazing. Also trying to get to 150,000 subscribers before the end of the season. We've got 3 more Grand Prix weekends and about a month to do so. We're at 5,000 subscribers off. Is certainly possible, especially if you guys hit that subscribe button now. It really does help out the stream, hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button. Thank you so, so much. Looking back at the Grand Prix then, Norris and Piastri still leading for McLaren. 10-second penalty, though, looming for Oscar Piastri. George Russell 3rd, Verstappen in 4th place, Alex Albon in 5th. Here's a move from Pierre Gasly up into 13th place as he's fighting for places with the Racing Bulls car. Liam Lawson not looking as comfortable as he once was. And Isaac Hadjar also a little bit out of shape inside of his racing bull. It was looking like a solid slam dunk double points finish for the Racing Bulls cars, wasn't it? But this second stint not quite going their way. Gasly causing them a little bit of a headache inside of the Alpine. And Ollie Behrman has disappeared up the road considerably from Isaac Hadjar. Now 6 seconds the gap between the top two. Kimi Antonelli, 27 seconds behind the leaders. Antonelli, remember, it's a 22, 23 second pit stop here. So Antonelli is still very much in the race here, especially as Hülkenberg and Albon are in front. If Antonelli can get in front of Hülkenberg and Albon swiftly, he's certainly in that realm of possibility of still causing a headache for the two McLaren cars. Obviously has pitted a lot earlier than them, has already completed 6 laps on these medium tyres, call that 7, as he comes down the start-finish straight and past Nico Hülkenberg. Let's see what Antonelli can do here. If he can get past Hülkenberg into turn 1 and then also past Albon into turn 4, that would be absolutely exquisite for the Italian. He's got a good run out of turn 3, closes the gap down towards Albon, has a little look at the Williams car, but isn't able to get past both. So just the one overtake this lap. I mean, very good overtake, but just the one for Kimi Antonelli on lap 29 of this Grand Prix. Alex Albon next in the list, and Antonelli has just scythed through the midfield. I know he's in a Mercedes car, and you know you can give him all the praise with those caveats, but still, he is absolutely flying this weekend. Like, this is the Kimi Antonelli we were told we would see, right? This is the Kimi Antonelli that certainly is capable of doing something very, very special indeed inside of that Mercedes car. And Antonelli looking at the back of Alex Albon this time around, and 1 lap later gets that move done. Lap 30 of the Grand Prix as Colapinto and Lance Stroll finally pit. Hadjar and Gasly, Lawson and Sainz making their way past. So is Ocon and Hamilton. So Colapinto and Stroll both going to come out in a bit of a weird place, to be honest. Kimi Antonelli, let's have a little look then. 7 seconds off the rear end of Max Verstappen's car. It is soft compound tyres and Lando Norris box. It is McLaren coming in. It is Lando Norris first of the two. And it is soft compound tyres heading for Lando Norris's car. His lead 6.9 seconds before coming into the pits. Oscar Piastri will move into the lead of this Grand Prix. George Russell continues on. And so does Max Verstappen. So it's going to be interesting as Norris is going to come out right near Max Verstappen in all of this. Verstappen going to be battling with his championship rival. Verstappen just coming through turn 2 and around turn 3. And Lando Norris coming through the inside of turn 3. It is going to be close. And Verstappen does come out ahead. Verstappen is going to be a couple of seconds up the road from Lando Norris. The soft compound tyres on. They are a slightly scrubbed set of soft compound tyres. They would have been used in probably sprint qualifying or qualifying 1 yesterday to put a flying lap together. Max Verstappen moves up into the podium places. 23 laps completed, though, on those medium tyres to the 3 laps of Lando Norris behind. Antonelli then behind as well. Antonelli 4.3 seconds off Lando Norris, which, considering, you know, he had that crash with Oscar Piastri, is not too shabby at all from Kimi Antonelli. George Russell continues across the start-finish line. So Piastri and Russell still yet to have stopped. Albon and Hülkenberg the same in 6th and 7th place. Behrman still running best of the rest at the moment, and a considerable gap between Ollie Behrman and Isaac Hadjar, nearly 5 seconds between the between the Haas and Isaac Hadjar's Racing Bulls. Saying Alpine because Pierre Gasly is looking at the rear end of the Racing Bull, and Gasly really causing a headache for Hadjar and Lawson here is between the two Racing Bulls cars. And a 5-second time penalty for Lewis Hamilton has just been confirmed on our screens then. 5-second time penalty causing a collision for the instant he had with Franco Colapinto right at the beginning of the Grand Prix. So it's a 5-second penalty for Lewis Hamilton, who's currently running in 14th place. Lando Norris has caught up to the back of Max Verstappen, has got way more pace than Max Verstappen's Red Bull car at this point in the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen will be maintaining those tyres, whereas Lando Norris on a fresh set of softs. Let's see what he can do then. They come around turn 14 together. Turn 15 allows you to have the DRS open. Verstappen moves to the inside of the track, but he's just got absolutely nothing compared to the pace of Lando Norris's car, and the McLaren makes it look comfortable. Verstappen not really able to even defend, just not even given a chance, to be honest. And Lando Norris moves up into 3rd place and back up into the podium places once again. He's now 13.8 seconds off the lead. But remember, Piastri not only has got to pit, which will cost him about 22 seconds, he's also got to come to a stop for 10 more seconds. So we're looking at sort of a 35-second stop for Piastri. Piastri likely to come out around about Carlos Sainz. So Oscar Piastri fans, I'm very sorry. Even though he is leading the Grand Prix technically right now, there is a long pit stop to come, and there is the additional 10-second time penalty for Yuki Tsunoda for failing to serve his first time penalty correctly. So the misery compiled for Tsunoda and Hamilton, really. Hamilton running down in 18th place is another 5-second penalty. He's come into the pits to serve that. And Yuki Tsunoda now with another 10-second penalty as well. It is not looking very fun for those drivers at the back of the pack. Charles Leclerc and Gabriel Bortoleto not even taking part anymore. So Ferrari having an absolute nightmare of a day as Nico Hülkenberg has a little look at Alex Albon and gets the move done. Hülkenberg up into 6th place. Alex Albon down then into 7th. And Ollie Behrman is now there. And Oscar Piastri, the medium feels good for now, debating whether or not they want to try and use the hard compound tyre. Didn't look too bad on the Aston Martins, they're saying over the radio, but they steered clear of the hard compound tyre for Lando Norris. He wanted some softs. It's interesting. As the track rubbers in, maybe the hard compound tyres do come to life a little bit more, but it is a pretty tough afternoon for Oscar Piastri with that additional 10-second penalty to really play it perfectly. Pierre Gasly coming into turn 1 and fighting with Isaac Hadjar once more. Into the pits comes George Russell. Russell into the pits then. And so is Verstappen, I think. Verstappen has also stopped. So Russell and Verstappen now on very similar strategies to one another. It is soft compound tyres for George Russell. Max Verstappen is going to come out in a little bit of an awkward patch because Verstappen has indeed pitted. Needed to pit earlier on for a puncture, Max Verstappen. That's why he's in a bit of a weird spot right now. And he comes out behind Carlos Sainz. Actually, George Russell and Verstappen doing fairly well there to get a little bit of clean air to warm their tyres up in. Verstappen's got a couple of seconds to Carlos Sainz ahead. Russell is catching the back of Alex Albon, who has just been dispatched by Ollie Behrman as Behrman moves up into 5th place. Behrman is on an absolute killer of a run today. He is up into 5th and now looking at Nico Hülkenberg's rear wing. Kimi Antonelli also doing very well indeed. running third at the moment after that collision with Oscar Piastri, is going to move back into second place once Oscar Piastri pits. Nico Hülkenberg in fourth place still needs to pit, and so does Alex Albon in sixth place. A lot of the other cars going for two-stop strategies, though, so still a long way to go and still a lot of strategy decisions to play out. Lewis Hamilton has indeed served that 5-second penalty, and correctly, I think is the main thing, as Alex Albon finally gives up on those tyres and comes into the pits. So Albon going to drop back in the pack, and Hülkenberg fourth, Behrman fifth, George Russell now up into sixth place once again, and about a second adrift from Ollie Behrman. Behrman just needs to get past Hülkenberg here before George Russell really becomes an issue, which I think could be quite hard. Hadjar, Gasly, Lawson, Verstappen, the little pack behind. I'm sure the Racing Bulls cars aren't going to hold up Max Verstappen for too long here. Verstappen currently running in 10th place and trying his best to get past the Racing Bull of Liam Lawson. Although I'm sure there's not too much love lost between those two. They were teammates at the beginning of the year. Lawson then kicked out 2 Grand Prix into the season. Nico Hülkenberg finally decides to pit to maybe cover off the move of Alex Albon, who he was racing with previously. Hülkenberg in. Releases Ollie Behrman then, and Behrman now has to fight with George Russell. This is going to be an interesting one. Does Behrman put up much of a battle here with Russell? Is he really racing the Mercedes? I don't think so. And actually, yeah, he doesn't put too much of a fight up at all. Behrman, knowing that best of the rest is pretty much confirmed for him. He doesn't need to do anything too silly and doesn't need to battle with a Mercedes car that is on much fresher soft compound tyres. So George Russell up into fourth. And once again, we have 2 McLarens and 2 Mercedes cars as our front 4. Ollie Behrman in fifth, Isaac Hadjar in sixth. Gasly now ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen was able to move past Liam Lawson, and Max Verstappen actually has a little look at Pierre Gasly through turn 10. Isn't able to do it that time around. The Alpine 16-lap older medium tyres in front of him. Max Verstappen with DRS will be looking at Gasly. Gasly will also have DRS to Isaac Hadjar ahead, though. But Verstappen is right under the rear wing and is also going for the move into turn 15. It's a drag race down the pit straight between Verstappen and Gasly, and Verstappen is always going to win that one. Verstappen up into 6th place. And Isaac Hadjar has pitted, so Verstappen is now released. Verstappen 5 seconds behind Ollie Behrman. And Isaac Hadjar in and out for Racing Bulls. A lot of these cars look to be absolutely flying this afternoon. There's some really lovely battles. One of which is not Lewis Hamilton, who has been asked to box and retire the car. So that is going to be a double DNF for Ferrari here, whilst their rivals for second place in the championship are running in 3rd and 4th, with Oscar Piastri now coming in and having to deal with a 10-second penalty. So Piastri is into the pits. Nobody can touch the car for 10 seconds. And then they can go. When someone screams go, the tyres come off, the tyres go on, and it's soft compound tyres for Oscar Piastri. Maybe they just don't think the hard compound tyre is not the tyre for today. I mean, everybody has come off of the hard compound tyre now. Clearly not the race tyre that they were expecting it to be. Piastri, though, it's a 13.2 second stop. 20-odd seconds plus. Where's he going to come out? Piastri comes out behind Liam Lawson. So Piastri now down into 8th place. Lawson and Gasly ahead of him. It's not a horrendous place for Oscar Piastri to come out. We've seen Verstappen able to get past Lawson and Gasly fairly quickly. And Verstappen now chasing down the back of Ollie Behrman's car. That gap was 5 seconds, now down to 3.5. So Verstappen is absolutely flying as we see Lewis Hamilton's car come to a stop and wheeled back into the Ferrari garage. that is indeed going to be Lewis Hamilton out of this Grand Prix. I think the penalties, the problems, the collisions, they'd had enough. And halfway through, they've called it a day. Both of the Ferraris done, and at least the Ferraris, they'll be able to get an earlier plane back. But start packing up now, boys. You'll be okay. Gasly comes into the pits. That helps out Oscar Piastri because Piastri now doesn't have to deal with Gasly. So Lawson is the only car ahead of him before he's going to catch the back of Verstappen. What we could really do with, and I know that you shouldn't really ask for this, but we could really do with is a safety car. That would properly shuffle things up right about now. If there was just a little collision. Let's look at Hülkenberg fighting with Alonso down towards turn 4. Maybe just a little touch between the two. No, not this time around. But a safety car here would really, really push things into a bit of a crazy final 30 laps. On board with Oscar Piastri, who is still looking at the back of Liam Lawson. Does he have a go down the inside at turn 10? No, he does not. Is right under the rear wing of the Racing Bulls car, though. Problem is, though, if Oscar Piastri stays where he is, he will be 28 points off Lando Norris in the championship. It's more than a victory, and he would need snookers. So Piastri making his way past Liam Lawson and up into 6th place. Another couple of points in the bag for Piastri. That needs a lot more, does Piastri here. Verstappen 5 seconds up the road from the Australian, who, remember, led the championship from Saudi Arabia all the way up until last time out in Mexico. Lando Norris has not led this championship for long, but he is leading this championship well. 7 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Another 6 seconds to George Russell behind. Lando Norris in a completely different stratosphere to the other drivers out on the grid right now. Verstappen really pushing to try and catch the back of Ollie Behrman. And that's the other thing. Whilst Lando Norris is just babysitting those soft compound tyres and making them go that little bit longer, everybody else is having to push like crazy to try and keep up with him. Lando Norris just, as I say, in a completely different world of his own right now. Piastri down in 6th place, Verstappen down in 5th. The championship looking very comfortable indeed. In fact, at this point, because there doesn't look to be many drivers within DRS range of others, Albon might be able to move up to a point-scoring place. Is going to make a move on Fernando Alonso now, and does indeed move up into a point-scoring place. Albon gets past Alonso into turn 1. Let's have a little look at the championship then, whilst we have the opportunity to do so, and there's not too many battles playing out at this very moment. So, as I say, Lando Norris would move up to 390 points, almost guaranteed at this moment in time. He's looked untouchable at the front of this Grand Prix today. It's been another masterclass weekend from Lando Norris to support the absolutely ridiculous speed that he had in Mexico as well. Oscar Piastri would be on 364, 26 points the gap, and more than a Grand Prix victory. So Oscar Piastri would need a DNF, really, for Lando Norris to get back into it. And Piastri, what's the plan here? Use with pace, trying to undercut Behrman and Russell. Verstappen will help you do that. As into the pits comes Ollie Behrman, actually. So this is how it plays out at the moment. But another 2 points going to Piastri as he moves past Ollie Behrman. And now is within a victory, but again would still need a dream and a miracle. 24 points the gap. Lando Norris and then Verstappen really would be out of the running now. He would be, 252 points behind Lando Norris with 3 Grand Prix weekends to go. Would be all but done. Red Bull would actually move in front of Ferrari. The double DNF for Ferrari, allowing Max Verstappen to move the Red Bull team back up into 3rd in the Constructors. And Mercedes looking a mile ahead of the rest now. 401 points. They're nearly 40 points ahead of the 2 behind. So, wow, indeed, for the Ferrari team. Antonelli still 7.5 seconds behind. Just feels like Lando Norris is maintaining that gap. Everything that Kimi gives it, Lando Norris just being like, that's okay, I can match that pace and do nothing more or nothing less. Antonelli still running second. George Russell in third spot at the moment. Max Verstappen in fourth. With Ollie Behrman moving out of the way, means Max Verstappen's running behind George Russell and is 6 seconds adrift. Ollie Behrman, where did Behrman actually come out? Behind Fernando Alonso. So even more work for Ollie Behrman. He's really putting in some hard yards today, is Ollie Behrman. He's had to sive through the midfield once. He's now going to have to do it all over again. Yes, there's going to be cars in front of him that pit, but he's going to have to really work for this, is Ollie Behrman. He's got the pace to do it, though. And looks very, very quick indeed, catching up to the back of Fernando as we speak. Planning to pit again. Oscar Piastri and McLaren, maybe. And that does mean they'd have to pit again, doesn't it? If Lando Norris does decide to pit again. Max Verstappen, only 10 laps completed on those mediums. You'd imagine we'd be able to go somewhere close to the end of the Grand Prix. Again, the tyres last a little bit longer towards the end. The cars are lighter. There's less fuel on board. The track is a little bit more rubbered in. And Oscar Piastri, looking at the back of Max Verstappen's car, he's 4 seconds adrift, but we'll be able to see Verstappen on the longer straights, and especially in that very compact midfield part of the track. He'll look to his right, look to his left. He'll be able to see Max Verstappen as he goes through these corners. It is very tight indeed. We weren't quite able to look at the midfield teams in terms of the championship, but that is also looking very tasty indeed. Although there's still some places to turn around. But at the moment, Williams, Racing Bulls, and Haas are looking the best of them. Aston Martin will stay where they are. A lot of money here between these points. And Kick Sauber currently on 4 points, but unlikely that Nico Hülkenberg will hold on to those perfectly. We'll update you as it happens. And Oscar Piastri not looking very happy inside of that McLaren car. He's saying, look, it's not looking very fun inside of my car right now. This better look a little bit better from your guys' perspective, and trying to keep the morale high. Oscar Piastri knows that he lost 10 seconds due to that penalty. You take 10 seconds off of Oscar Piastri's time, he's running behind Kimi Antonelli and still in third place. So Piastri in a very awkward spot now. At least he's dealt with that 10-second time penalty. But as I say, would be running in third had he not picked it up in the first place. Looking at the gap as well, Liam Lawson is in 6th place again. Isaac Hadjar pitted and is running in 13th. So the Aston Martins once again in front of the Racing Bull and causing a little bit of a problem. Sainz is on the medium tyre in 15th place. Franco Colapinto has just done the fastest lap of anybody today, a 1:12.8. So Colapinto showing that there is certainly pace on the medium tyre if you get a fresh set of them. Here comes a move for Nico Hülkenberg on Esteban Ocon, and also a move for Ollie Behrman on Alex Albon. Hülkenberg up into 7th, Behrman up into 9th, Ocon down to 8th, and Albon down to 10th. Very nice move from Ollie Behrman again. I'm going to keep singing his praises because he is flying out there this weekend, Ollie Behrman. Really got the bit between his teeth after that penalty point that he picked up, hasn't he? He was screaming around yesterday in qualifying, and now he's absolutely rattling around inside of that Haas car. Next up is Esteban Ocon. I'd imagine the Haas team will make sure that Esteban Ocon moves aside fairly swiftly. And Isaac Hadjar struggling and asking his engineer not to shout at him, even though his engineer trying to calm Isaac Hadjar down. Kimi Antonelli into the pits. Another 2.2 second stop from Mercedes. They are very swift with their pit stops now, the Mercedes team. Very consistent, as Liam Lawson is just coming around at turn 2 and turn 3. So Antonelli is going to come out just behind Liam Lawson's car there. Behrman catching up to the back of Hulkenberg as they come through the first couple of corners. But Kimi Antonelli is surely going to be able to pass Liam Lawson fairly comfortably straight off the bat. Then Antonelli's got quite a run to Oscar Piastri. It's a 10-second gap between Piastri and Lawson. Maybe expecting those cars to drop off in front of him and Antonelli to come to life in this final part of the Grand Prix. He's on a fairly fresh set of medium tyres. Yuki Tsunoda stopped once again. Let's see if he can finally do that 10-second time penalty correctly. Yuki Tsunoda with a double 10-second time penalty. George Russell is also into the pits for Mercedes, releasing Max Verstappen into second place in this Grand Prix. He is 15.5 seconds adrift of Lando Norris at the top of the timing sheets. Oscar Piastri also just behind. Yuki Tsunoda now ahead of his teammate. George Russell is going to see Kimi Antonelli just coming out of the pits. Oh, and here comes Ollie Behrman. Behrman up the inside. Can Behrman make a move on Hulkenberg? Hulkenberg's not making it easy. And Hulkenberg holds on for now. Turn 3, through they go. Behrman is going to have DRS once again. So lovely moves across Hulkenberg to the inside. Behrman with the DRS, though, goes to the outside of the track. And Behrman makes the move around the outside at turn 4. And Ollie Behrman up into 7th place. Nico Hulkenberg did his absolute best to hold Ollie Behrman behind. But Behrman on the medium tyre. Hulkenberg on the soft. Hulkenberg not able to hold Behrman this time. The Haas car underneath Ollie Behrman's feet this weekend. Looking very swift indeed. And it was a lovely little battle through turn 1. Hulkenberg leaving just enough space on the inside of turn 1, but then using the fact that turn 2 comes at you straight away. And then Behrman through turn 3, stayed under the rear wing of the Stakes Sauber car, moved to the right-hand side of the track. Hulkenberg trying to defend the inside. And Kimi Antonelli also just making a move on Liam Lawson. So Antonelli back up into 4th. There's a big gap ahead of him now. 11.6 seconds, the gap between Antonelli and Piastri. So these lap times from Antonelli need to be pretty spectacular. 22 laps left of running. Needs to be, well, at least sort of half a second quicker than the guys ahead, or Antonelli is going to miss out on the podium places. Verstappen in second. Lando Norris leading this race, and Lando Norris could pit and still come out. Oh, Lando Norris is in. I was going to say could pit and will come out between Piastri and Antonelli. He is pitting. Will he come out between Piastri and Antonelli? He should do in terms of the timing sheets. There's a big gap between Piastri and Antonelli. There goes Max Verstappen to take the lead of this Grand Prix. Would you believe it? From the pit lane, Max Verstappen now at the top. Simply lovely indeed, but has completed 16 laps on those medium tyres. George Russell then also joins his teammate in moving past Liam Lawson. And Lando Norris has pitted, is now 5 seconds behind Oscar Piastri. 21 laps left to go. Piastri and Verstappen likely will not pit again. So it is up to Lando Norris to get the moves done on his 2 championship rivals. You could not write it, could you? Lando Norris running in 3rd, fresh tyres on. He is going to have to overtake Piastri and Verstappen to get back the lead of this Grand Prix. Verstappen on the radio. And GP on the radio to Max Verstappen says, "You are now the race leader." Max Verstappen flying. Oscar Piastri, box, box. Box, box. So Piastri has had enough. Piastri does not like those soft compound tyres, clearly. And does not think that he is going to be able to hold off his teammate. Onto the mediums he goes. Piastri then in and out. Piastri's going to be behind Lawson, maybe even behind Behrman. Let's have a little look at the map. Where's Behrman? Maybe even behind Behrman. So Piastri is going to have some overtaking to do of his own at the end of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris then 8 seconds adrift of Verstappen. Let's look at what his lap times are like. And Ollie Behrman goes past. So Hulkenberg behind Piastri. Behrman ahead of Piastri. It's gonna get a bit tense, isn't it? Isaac Hadjar also making a move on Lance Stroll and back up into the point scoring places for Racing Bull. Isaac Hadjar frustrated inside of that Racing Bull's car. Pierre Gasly also gets past Lance Stroll as well. Gasly has just not left the rear wing of that Racing Bull all afternoon. Hadjar and Gasly, the two Frenchmen, just absolutely hammer and tong with one another. These are fights coming out of absolutely nowhere. And Max Verstappen thinking about a possible pit stop here because they've got a brand new set of soft compound tyres. So would it be quicker for Max Verstappen to stop and burn some soft compound tyre rubber? Obviously, they didn't have to use those soft compounds in qualifying yesterday. Or is Max Verstappen going to continue on to the end of this Grand Prix? Have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz having a little fight with Lance Stroll. Remember, Carlos Sainz missing the front wing end plate of his Williams car after coming together at the beginning of this Grand Prix with Lewis Hamilton. Still running on, though, is Carlos Sainz. Verstappen now 7 seconds ahead of Norris. Norris was 0.3 of a second quicker last time around. Kimi Antonelli, though, actually lapping the quickest of the front runners, a 13.1 from Kimi Antonelli. And a 13.0 from George Russell. Let's keep an eye on what Oscar Piastri's time is like as he is catching the back of Ollie Behrman and is going to have DRS to the Haas car ahead as well. So Piastri going around, the Haas car cleared, and Piastri moves back up into 6th place. Liam Lawson, the next car in his sights, 3 seconds up the road. But Lawson currently lapping about a second slower than Behrman behind and a couple of seconds slower than Oscar Piastri. So Piastri will be right on the rear wing of Liam Lawson sooner rather than later. He is absolutely flying at this moment in time. Carlos Sainz having a little look and not able to do it this time around. There is battles here, there, and everywhere at this São Paulo Grand Prix. It is not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. 18 laps left to go and a good few battles left to play out. Max Verstappen is in. Verstappen pits. Max Verstappen pits. And a fresh set of soft compound tyres go onto Max Verstappen's car. He's going to come out. Where's Liam Lawson and Piastri? Lawson just coming down, turn 15 now. Ooh, it's going to be really tight in terms of Verstappen coming out near Oscar Piastri. Verstappen then through turn 2 and now turn 3. And there's Lawson coming into turn 3 and Verstappen's going to come out ahead of that too. So Verstappen is running ahead of Oscar Piastri. I know Piastri had a 10-second penalty, but remember, Max Verstappen started in the pit lane. He is absolutely flying today, is Max Verstappen. And I know that it cost them massively in qualifying yesterday to make those changes to the Red Bull car, but the additional changes in Parc Ferme and the new engine doing him a dream service back up to 4th place. And Max Verstappen 6 seconds adrift of George Russell, but brand new soft compound tyres. So George Russell is under pressure, it feels like. Max Verstappen has got the opportunity here to just do qualifying lap after qualifying lap and push these soft compound tyres 16 laps all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. They will make it there. Lando Norris, though, is still leading this race and is still leading the championship. Verstappen will lose ground to Lando, but will gain on Piastri. Pierre Gasly also looking at a point scoring place. Isaac Hadjar ahead of him. Nico Hülkenberg has done a sublime job in that Stakes Sauber car. The one-stop strategy for him has slotted him into 8th place. Hadjar and Gasly both trying to close the gap to the German driver, though. 5 seconds the gap. Antonelli on the radio. 16 laps remaining. Best stint to the end. Kimi Antonelli is being told. We are now defending this position. Tell you what Max Verstappen needs right now. Safety car. Safety car would close up Max Verstappen to the back of these three. He'd be on fresh, soft compound tyres. Everyone else ahead of him on slightly scrubbed mediums. Just saying, Liam Lawson could do a little bit of a job here, as Ollie Behrman is now going to try and make a move on Liam Lawson. Maybe Liam Lawson just clips the rear end of Ollie Behrman's house. No, he doesn't. Ollie Behrman through and into 6th place as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race. It's a 1:12.4 from Max Verstappen. It is a whole second quicker than George Russell in 3rd place ahead. He's still 4 seconds adrift, but that is a whole second a lap. A vulnerable tyre, GP is told. But Max Verstappen, we have nothing to lose. He is spot on. Might as well go for it, Max Verstappen. I think just maybe telling Max not to do completely qualifying laps on these soft compound tyres, but Verstappen also knows got nothing else. And George Russell right on the limit. And George Russell not feeling comfortable, I don't think, knowing that Max Verstappen is behind and on soft compound tyres. It's a 13.3 from Lando Norris. So 0.8 of a second quicker from Max Verstappen again. Verstappen now 3.4 seconds behind. The problem is Verstappen's also got Russell and Antonelli to deal with. So even if he's quicker than Lando Norris right now, there's 2 Mercedes cars that he's also got to get past. Piastri up into 5th place on the medium compound tyre where he wanted to be. Ollie Behrman running best of the rest in 6th. Liam Lawson 7th. Hülkenberg in 8th. Isaac Hadjar in 9th. And Pierre Gasly in the final point scoring position. And George Russell got some braking issues at the moment and losing even more lap time because he is struggling with the brakes. And Kimi Antonelli and George Russell carrying a lot of speed through turn 1, trying their best to keep Max Verstappen at bay. But again, Max Verstappen is 0.8 of a second quicker on the last lap. The gap between George Russell and Max Verstappen, 2.6 seconds. Max on the soft compound tyre. Looking at it. George Russell struggling. Antonelli that little bit quicker. Lando Norris has been able to find a 10th or 2, knowing that Max Verstappen is behind. Oscar Piastri not able to match the cars in front at the moment. Piastri, it's going to be a miracle if he catches the back of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Just hasn't quite got the pace of them. as Alex Albon makes a move on Franco Colapinto, and you're going to see 15th turn into 14th on your screens there. Alex Albon. And Alex Albon up into 14th place. Max Verstappen has another little chat with GP, and GP says second place is on here, Max, as long as you can control the deg. So Max Verstappen being given the go-ahead. A pit lane to second place finish from Max Verstappen would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? He is just on another level. He is so quick around this track. It is unreal. Also had to do an extra pit stop because he got a puncture, by the way. Has done 3 pit stops as Max Verstappen. Imagine if he didn't have that puncture. Okay, yes, he wouldn't have been on the medium tyre and maybe wouldn't have been a quick in that first stint, but still. And Alex Albon now also makes his way past Fernando Alonso. Albon is looking... Christ, he is going to 12.4, Alex Albon. Fastest of anybody by a considerable margin. Is on a fresh set of medium compound tyres, actually, is Alex Albon. Got 12 laps left to go, but Albon has got Ocon, Sainz, and possibly even Gasly in his sights for a point-scoring position. And it is looking very tidy indeed at the front for Lando Norris. Norris now 6 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Has stepped up just a couple of tenths of a second. Lando Norris a 13.5. Antonelli and Russell 13.8 and 13.7. Verstappen only a 13.2 this time around, so isn't that whole second quicker, but is now just 5 tenths of a second quicker than George Russell. Still 3 Grand Prix and 1 sprint weekend left for these drivers this season. It's not over and done with yet, but Max Verstappen, I mean, a second place finish here would still be pretty hard to catch up in the championship, but a 4th place finish would mean it's certainly over. So 2 overtakes required for Max Verstappen to really stay even anywhere in contention of the championship, if you could call it that. Oscar Piastri, you could argue the same, down in 5th place. Max Verstappen, though, catching up to the back of George Russell once more and is now within DRS range of George Russell with 10 laps left to go. Russell's going to be on the radio begging and pleading for help from the Mercedes team, but he knows it's inevitable. Max Verstappen, it's almost the Jaws music needs to be playing as Max Verstappen approaches the rear wing of the Mercedes car. He is just the apex predator around here in Brazil, and I can't imagine George Russell has got anything in his locker that is going to be able to defend from Verstappen here. It's going to follow him through this middle part of the track. This is where it starts. Dun-na. He's going to be closing in. George Russell's going to be looking in his rear wing mirrors, knowing that Verstappen is getting closer and closer. Half a second off the back of George Russell coming around turn 10. Needs to close in just a touch before turn 12. And then you slingshot yourself out of turn 12. The DRS able to open just before turn 15. And here we go then. Max Verstappen's going to be right under the rear wing of George Russell. The DRS does indeed come open. The Mercedes car moves to the inside of the track. Max Verstappen's going to have to go around the outside if he wants to do it now. And he does want to do it now. He swoops around the outside of turn 1. And Max Verstappen moves into 3rd place. George Russell, nothing he could do. Max Verstappen makes it look easy. Verstappen breaks the toe, tries not to give George Russell too much of a DRS advantage, and gets down towards turn 4, still ahead of George Russell. And now Kimi Antonelli will be the one with, again, just start playing the Jaws music. He is 2.4 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli now, Max Verstappen, but just feels like he is inevitably going to close that gap. Verstappen on the radio. Good job. Round the outside, round the inside. And the fans in Brazil absolutely love that move from Verstappen. And up into the podium places goes the Red Bull of Max. Kimi Antonelli then loses a half a second to Max Verstappen on that lap. And even with Verstappen having to overtake George Russell, it hasn't cost him too much in terms of lap time. George Russell wasn't really able to put too much of a defensive maneuver up. Max Verstappen 2.3 seconds adrift of the Italian driver with 8 laps left to go. Piastri is also closing into the back of George Russell. Is 2.5 seconds adrift. I mean, he's absolutely flying. Oscar Piastri is looking to try and close in and looking at a P4, possibly Oscar Piastri here in those last 8 seconds. Lawson and Hülkenberg still on the one-stop strategy, and it's going well. Hülkenberg actually trying to get past Liam Lawson now. They're having a little bit of a tussle with one another. Ollie Behrman now in a complete no-man's land of his own. Deserved, though, for Ollie Behrman. He's done a sublime job this afternoon inside of that Haas car. Will finish best of the rest in 6th place, which is a 4th place, followed by a 6th place for Ollie Behrman. That is a brilliant, brilliant afternoon for the Briton in the Haas car. Liam Lawson then in 7th place, Hülkenberg in 8th. They're on the one-stop strategy compared to everybody else who's done 2. And it's working for them at the moment, but Isaac Hadjar closing into the back of them. And then Pierre Gasly running in 10th place, still just right under the rear wing of Isaac Hadjar. Gasly is going to be able to draw from memory the rear wing of that Racing Bulls car. He has seen it non-stop this afternoon and has been right underneath it in almost every single corner of this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen then, let's join him once again. He's 1.8 seconds off the back of Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli has just stepped it up a little bit. A 13.4 from Kimi, a 13.2 from Verstappen. And has Max Verstappen maybe pushed these soft compound tyres just that little bit too far? Has he hit the limit a touch and maybe needs to just cope with those a touch? Lando Norris, though, comfortably in the lead, and Lando Norris will take another victory at the crucial point of the season. It's the first time that Lando Norris has got pole position on the same track twice. He was on pole position here last year. He's got pole position here again this year. Last time, though, he was not able to turn that into a victory. Max Verstappen came through the field in the wet to take the Grand Prix in Brazil. Lando Norris, though, looking to turn this pole position into a Grand Prix victory. Nico Hülkenberg, looking at the rear wing of Liam Lawson, has the DRS, is just a couple of tenths of a second down on Liam Lawson as they come through turn 1. Doesn't quite have the opportunity to move past this time around. There's still battles going on in the midfield. Hülkenberg trying to get ahead of Lawson. Gasly might have a final little lunge at Isaac Hadjar. And Gasly struggling a touch. And now Hülkenberg looking at Lawson once again. Lawson has got to do some evasive maneuvers. Whilst we watch those two battling it out, Isaac Hadjar has joined the party because Lawson and Hülkenberg, battling with one another, have slowed each other down. And Isaac Hadjar is now actually right on the rear wing of the Stake Sauber cars. They are all in it. And Kimi Antonelli on the radio is being told, I'm just going to leave you to it. Antonelli knowing that Max Verstappen is still closing in. 1.1 seconds the gap now. Still outside of DRS range, Kimi Antonelli, but still lost 0.3 of a second to Max Verstappen last lap. If he does that again, Verstappen will be inside of that DRS range. Oscar Piastri also catching the back of George Russell now. There is still some swapping around in terms of places that are going to play out. Lando Norris is going to win this Grand Prix. Antonelli, second place for now. Managed second place in the sprint, but he didn't have Max Verstappen for company then. Max Verstappen has 5 laps left, soon to be 4 laps to go for this maneuver. is now within DRS range as well, Verstappen. So we're going to see the rear wing of that Red Bull car open once more. And Max Verstappen closes in on the Italian. Good friends, Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli. Max Verstappen, very nice to all of the rookies, to be fair. He's very supportive of them and coming onto the grid, gives them a lot of advice. But once that helmet goes on, all the friendships go out the window, and Max Verstappen closes in 0.5 of a second behind Kimi Antonelli. And Oscar Piastri is also trying to get within DRS range of of George Russell here. He's 1.1 seconds adrift still. Still needs that time. Lawson holding on for dear life in 7th place. Hülkenberg, Hadjar, and Gasly all line astern behind him. It's DRS train down towards turn 4. Hülkenberg has another little look at Lawson. Is he going to be able to make a move? Not this time. Liam Lawson continues on in 7th. Hülkenberg is still 8th. Hadjar 9th. Gasly 10th. But they are all fighting for it. Ocon is continuing on in 11th place. Albon has indeed managed to move past his teammate up into 12th. And Albon is kind of catching the back of this pack too. But here we are then. Max Verstappen, let's keep an eye on him as they come down towards turn 1. And Verstappen is closer than he has ever been before to the back of Antonelli's car. Half a second between them. Struggling with those tyres though now, Max. You can see them not quite gripping as well through turn 2 and turn 3 as they have been on previous laps. Antonelli keeping Max Verstappen at arm's length for now. They come through turn 4 and Antonelli still has the gap to Verstappen behind. Piastri also now has DRS to George Russell ahead of him. So the battle for 2nd and the battle for 4th still not finished. Lawson is also defending for his life from Nico Hülkenberg as they come down towards turn 1. They're side by side. Ocon and Albon have now joined this little train of cars behind Liam Lawson. Lawson doing everything he possibly can to keep everybody behind. And Lawson is defending for his life from Nico Hülkenberg. Whew, my goodness me. Kimi Antonelli, though, has done very well through that middle sector, actually. And Max Verstappen is a little bit further behind than he was last lap. Verstappen and Antonelli coming around turn 15 and down towards turn 1. Actually seems a little bit further away than he was previously, but then closes that gap thanks to the DRS down towards turn 1. Needs to maintain that kind of momentum through turn 2 and turn 3. The DRS is going to open once again for Verstappen. He's going to be right under the rear wing of Antonelli. Is he close enough? Not this time around. And he hasn't got long left as Verstappen. He's going to have to go for it sooner rather than later. And you can say the same for Piastri as they come through turn 4 with Piastri still behind George Russell. We could do with this Grand Prix being sort of 2 more laps longer, really. He is playing out perfectly. Verstappen and Antonelli are right on top of each other. Russell and Piastri the same. Lawson, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Ocon all fighting for position. Isaac Hadjar now trying to make a move on Nico Hülkenberg, and Hadjar has been able to make a move on Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg's dropped down to 9th place. Isaac Hadjar up into 8th. Liam Lawson ahead of him then. Are the Racing Bulls going to play the game? Do they let Isaac Hadjar by, or do they try and use Isaac Hadjar as a bit of a defensive ram for Hülkenberg behind? This has played out perfectly for Racing Bulls. As we go into the final lap of the race then, Antonelli and Verstappen. Let's move back to them as turn 1. Verstappen goes deep into turn 1. Has a little look at the Italian, maybe trying to put him off a touch as they come through turn 2 and into turn 3. Verstappen playing the mind games with Antonelli. DRS open. His last opportunity to make a lunge up the inside. Does he go for it? He's a little bit far back. Can't make a move. Can Oscar Piastri go for it? I don't think he can. I think the Mercedes cars are going to just about have done enough on their medium compound tyres to hold off the pace of Verstappen and Piastri. Lando Norris coming around turn 10. Antonelli goes wide. He's run a little bit wide round turn 8. Antonelli needs to close it in. It's going to be so tight between the two of them then, because Verstappen is going to close into the back of him through turn 10. It is going to be right next to one another as they come through this final sector. Lando Norris, though, coming around the final corner, doesn't care about what's happening behind. He's won another Grand Prix. Lando Norris elongates his lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship just as he needs to. Antonelli versus Verstappen, DRS wide open. And Verstappen just needed another couple of laps because Antonelli is going to hold on. Antonelli second place, Verstappen third on the podium. But 10 points lost to Lando Norris. George Russell comes home fourth with Piastri in fifth. Ollie Behrman, take a bow, my friend. He is absolutely put in the drive of his life as Ollie Behrman. He finishes in sixth place. And Liam Lawson, I'll tell you what, has made that Racing Bulls car about 4 foot wider than it actually is in real life. I don't know what he has done. He's been able to hold off everybody at bay, and there is a train of cars behind him as Esteban Ocon tries to make a move on the inside of Alex Albon right at the end of the race. But they're going to come across the line in a big train behind Lawson. Lawson, Hadjar, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Albon, Ocon, Sainz, Alonso, Colapinto and Stroll all come across the line basically together, leaving Yuki Tsunoda to come across the line last. Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Gabriel Bortoleto drop out of the race in 18th, 19th and 20th. Ollie Behrman, wow. Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris also have to look. Let's have a little look at the championship before you guys go. Just to let you know what is happening there. We have got... Oh, there's the wrong one, isn't it? There we go. With the chat. Chat's gone anyway. We give up. We'll get rid of it. There we go. Lando Norris. Another win. Back-to-back victories. 390 points. Puts him 24 points ahead in the championship. Piastri on 366. Verstappen now 49 points. That is too many. That cannot be done from Max Verstappen in 3 Grand Prix weekends. I know there's a sprint race in there, but we are praying for miracles if Max Verstappen is still in this championship race. George Russell, 276. He remains 4th place. There isn't any move. Antonelli, with those 18 points, moves closer to the back of Lewis Hamilton. But again, a big gap between those two. Hulkenberg actually consolidates himself in 9th spot, but Hadjar now matches him on 43. Ollie Behrman, after 2 sublime performances back-to-back, is suddenly 11th in the Drivers' Championship and only 3 points behind being best of the rest other than Alex Albon. Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz both move down to make way for Ollie Behrman charging up. Liam Lawson also moves up into 14th place. He's now on 36 points. Pierre Gasly stays in 18th but gains a point. Racing Bulls gain 10 points. They move clear in 6th place in the Constructors' Championship as well. Aston Martin now only 2 points ahead of Haas in 8th place. And Kick Sauber a little bit further behind on 62 are the main developments in the Constructors. Red Bull Racing move up ahead of Ferrari by 4 points. But with the form of Yuki Tsunoda, I can't see that maintaining itself for too long, if I am honest. Mercedes, though, huge winners from the double DNF for Ferrari. They're now up to 398 in terms of points. 30-point swing in their favor this weekend. And a 2nd place in the constructor standings looking very likely indeed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Massively appreciate it. As you leave, hit that like button, subscribe button. I will be live momentarily for members. Give me about 5 minutes or so just to shuffle things around. And we'll have a little post-race chat. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your support. Massively appreciate it. And I will see you in a couple of weekends' time for the Vegas Grand Prix. A triple header to come. Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi to round out the championship. Will it be Lando Norris? Back-to-back victories. Is this his time to be a Formula One world champion? We'll have to wait and see.